We're turning our attention now to Champions League, a massive couple of nights, particularly tomorrow night for Barcelona, which we'll get into in just a moment. Graham Hunter is with us on the line. Graham, good morning to you.
Hi there.
Before we get into that, I just wanted to touch back on the weekend's La Liga. According to Marca, the best day for Real Madrid in 79 years, that they win and Atletico lose and Barca lose all on the same day. You've got Benzema getting taken off, Jovic coming on, and all of a sudden there's a new era, a new number 9 in town, and Real Madrid are going to run away with this title.
It was a fantastic, it might be a little bit of hyperbole from a newspaper, which I really now admire the way that it's edited, the way in which they consistently choose the right journalistic line, not the Florentino Perez line. And yeah, listen, if anybody watched the game, it's a startlingly good match. Up at Anoeta, where Real Sociedad, the hipsters team this season, and also a very attractive team to watch, full of talent, full of youth, full of homebred players, was really taught a lesson by Real Madrid. Madrid are in form. They've had this little run of... Everybody here in Spain likes to make analogies with the Tour de France, and Tourmalet is one of these brutal King of the Mountains climbs that you've got to go through, you've got to sweat through in order to win the Tour de France. And this has been Real Madrid's little Tourmalet, because by anybody's standards, to play Seville, Athletic Bilbao, La Real, Inter tonight, and then Atleti this weekend in the Madrid derby, that's a little footballing Tourmalet. And so far, Madrid have been pretty much faultless. They've won all their games. They haven't looked gigantically at threat. They've been defending a lot better, particularly Alaba, Militao, Courtois, and Vinicius is absolutely sublime. There isn't a better footballer to watch in La Liga. There might not be a better footballer to watch in most of the big leagues around Europe. There are more established players, maybe players who are outscoring him, but Vinicius' joy in finding that his brain and his feet not only connect, but they're great friends. His technique, superb. His choice of what to do with the ball, superb. The thrill of seeing somebody making decisions and beating players at that speed, again, is something that we don't see a lot anymore. He's a mixture of the modern footballer who has to be tracking back and working and tackling, which he does with energy and appetite, but also the old style guy who's got the ball at his feet and he's going to torment the next 2-3 guys wearing different coloured shirts that are in his way. His connection with Jovic when Benzema went off was absolutely sublime, and they conspired to make a really, really good goal for Vinicius. So, yeah, it was a decent weekend, particularly given that Barcelona lost at home to Betis in a brilliantly constructed breakaway. Pellegrini fans at West Ham and Manchester City who thought they did or didn't see the best of him. The way he's constructed Betis, again, is a really attractive proposition. When you watch them, they don't have multi-million-pound players that would make other teams jealous. But he's got them playing with complete conviction, attacking intent. They picked Barcelona off absolutely brilliant. And as far as Mallorca is concerned, well, them winning at Atleti was a very good way to celebrate the new big interview with one of their directors, Graham Lasso. So you can get it in wherever you get your podcasts. Come and listen to me and Graham Lasso talking just after Mallorca went to Atleti beat the champions 2-1 with a goal from Taki Kubo, which was beaut.
This is probably putting you on the spot a little bit, but give us Graham Lasso's football philosophy in his new role.
Well, the first thing that he's doing is he's trying to, because it's American-owned, and there are some involvement from the Nadals, some involvement from stars of NBA in the States. Steve Nash is one of them. Stuart Holden, who was brought up in Aberdeen, but starred for Bolton and the US men's team in soccer. There's a conglomerate of owners who try to make Mallorca a firm proposition in La Liga, keep them up, make them build, do a Villarreal if you want. And Graham is helping them in terms of consultancy of which type of manager should they be hiring, which type of football should they be playing. He's been helping them in terms of seeking out the right types of footballers. He's given consultancy tasks, and he's the real football brain amongst a consortium that adds know-how, knowledge, contact. And he's very, very attached to the club too. And when you speak to him about the way in which he feels he can contribute, He's also been asked to do SWOT analysis on past and current employees. One of them suffered badly from the SWOT analysis that Graham did, and is now head of the PFA in England. And Mallorca don't miss him one little bit.
Let's get stuck into the football over the next couple of nights then, Graham. Tomorrow night, I think, really is just this unbelievably attractive fixture between Bayern and Barcelona. A huge degree of pressure on Barcelona, and already you can see pieces being written comparing this Barcelona team to the last Barcelona team to get to crash out in the group stages. So is there this general expectancy that they're really up against it tomorrow night, and actually Benfica may actually leapfrog them once again into second place?
I think, look, generally for anybody who's watched the last few months, anybody who was at Camp Nou at the weekend, yes is the answer. Not from Xavi or from the players. I think there's a general belief that with a slightly altered Bayern, I would expect Bayern to win. They should be good enough to win. It's a shock if they don't. But it won't be their top 11. We know that because of some absences, some degree of... Listen, any Bayern team for my taste that doesn't have Kimmich in it is a lesser team. Doesn't that bring Barcelona into the argument? Well, I think it'll be pretty miraculous if they do. No crowd, again, which is for reasons that we all just have to suffer and put up with. Does that help Barcelona a little bit? I think it probably does. There are certain players who need a crowd baying at them, and Luis Suarez would always prefer to play in a stadium where everybody's getting at him and inspiring him, and he'll use that. 18-year-old kids aren't always like that, and this team is peppered with 18-year-old kids. So there are other minor things that bring the two teams a little bit closer. Yes, there are. And does Xavi genuinely believe that they can go and win with Dembele probably starting for the first time in many weeks? It may actually be the second start this season. I don't think he's played a complete game since the summer and the Euros, but he looks fit. He came on at the weekend again against Betis and made a difference. Could easily have scored 2 or 3 times. Will Bayern be able to thwart that threat? You'd have thought quite possibly. But Dembele makes a difference in this team. Gavi, who took a bang on the head at the weekend and went to hospital, was immediately given the clearance to be part of the squad and can travel. Again, that makes a difference. How Xavi chooses to play at the back, I think, is a really big issue. Araujo, the Uruguayan defender, has become absolutely essential. How to decorate around that is a key thing. And there's a chance for Marc-Andre ter Stegen, who doesn't get on particularly well with Manuel Neuer, admires him, never slags him off, but they are two completely different personalities. Ter Stegen famously has believed for some years that he should be able to take Neuer's position as the number one in the German Mannschaft. Most coaches disagree. Stegen gets his games intermittently. Massive opportunity for him to show. Huge opportunity for Marc-Andre ter Stegen to go and produce a big game, whatever Neuer does. So there's a lot riding on it. And if Barcelona win, they're automatically through. And if Benfica match Barcelona's result, Benfica goes down into the Europa League after having pumped Barcelona in Lisbon. So it's a really good soap opera story.
Can I posit a ridiculous idea, Graham? Eric Dyer did a really interesting interview at the weekend where he talked about Pochettino and the time when they were peaking, and he debunked the commonly held view that actually their best team and the team that should have won the league was the team that got beaten by Leicester. Was actually the next season when Chelsea won the league and Antonio Conte came in. His case was that Chelsea weren't playing European football that year, and so therefore they had one sole focus, and that focus was restoring a title-winning team. And Spurs didn't quite have the squad to deal with the challenge on multiple fronts. Is there a world in which the best thing for Xavi is no European football next season?
No, I absolutely understand your premise. I've seen that happen across my reporting career. I've seen exactly what you're describing Dyer as arguing function. I agree it's a proposition that can work. But Xavi's need to restock quickly, given that it's established that there are 4 or 5 utterly exceptional players now between 17 and 19-year-old. There is absolutely no question that they have to buy a goal scorer. It's imperative, probably in January, in order to bring to fruition some of the good work we're seeing on the pitch, and we are. Barcelona can play. There's no question that they can play. Are they a little bit ragged? Are they positionally unsound? And do they absolutely fail to take goal chances? All of those 3 things are yes. And Ger, when you're 1.4 billion in debt, which Dyer and Spurs weren't then, you have to earn European money. It's a massive degradation of what you can draw in if you go down to the Europa League, or if you only qualify to play in the Europa League, which is what you're talking about. You're not just talking about this current season in Europe. You're talking about qualifying for Europe in the league, where at the moment, they're several points behind Rayo Vallecano, and at the moment they're not playing or looking like they'll qualify in the top four. But if they go down to the Europa League and in January they can add a little bit of goal power, it's far from beyond the bounds of possibilities that they win the Europa League and get that Champions League pot. Not guaranteed, absolutely not, but possible. And Spain for the second season in a row of 5 teams in the Champions League. But the revenue Barcelona need to cope with their debt, to repay people that they promised money to, and to invest a little bit in the team is imperative, Ger. And a key thing is, given that Barcelona and Real Madrid have already, from the group stage, lads, from the group stage, they've already taken in about 70 million euros. There'll be a couple of million euros here or there each between them. But if that's the way this competition is constructed, you have to be in it. So I take your Dyer point, but it doesn't apply to this version of Barcelona.
Okay, fair enough. The goal scorer you're talking about, the papers have helpfully linked Mo Salah to Barcelona today, and I made the comparison with Uncle June in The Sopranos and his desire to be with Angie Dickinson, very unlikely to happen.
Listen. Everybody's felt that desire once in their life.
What's going on? Why is this even a story? Why are people printing it? Surely it's the most ludicrous thing. It's the season of Christmas and miracles happen. Is that what's going on?
No, it's really obvious that Salah, who's in maybe the best form, some of the best form that he's shown since being at Liverpool, and is genuinely an exceptional athlete, footballer, scorer, and now leader. I think his position and his profile within the squad has grown, has changed, has added a dimension, is a better way to say it. For months now, he's been giving interviews whereby my future's not in my hands, and yeah, maybe Spain, why not? He even gave one in Manchester, travelled across to a hotel near Manchester to Diario AS about 4 months ago, where the whole point, speaking to a Spanish newspaper, which he didn't need to do. Superstars' time is tight. You pick and choose. Let's never think that an interview with a world top footballer with a particular medium from another country isn't hugely crafted and strategic. So these little drip, well, maybe, who knows? I saw Salah's words where I saw Xavi's interest in me. Xavi's never spoken about Salah. Barcelona cannot even contemplate doing that deal, even with the influx of money which is being argued over between the CBC deal that the head of La Liga is bringing to the clubs, and a separate deal which Real Madrid Athletic Club and Barcelona have set up to try and tempt the clubs not to take the La Liga money. However that money goes, that Salah idea is an non-starter at his age. What would he be, never mind the money, what would he be thinking of going and spending time playing for Barcelona while they're in the midst of a massive rebuilding, and one which has got huge amounts to move before there's even clarity of vision and a building of the super team. So can we just put that one aside as Mo Salah digging Liverpool out, saying, get my contract done and get it done the way I want?
But you're saying, not that in relation to Salah at all here, but you're saying there's a chance that Barcelona have some sort of cash to work with over the next couple of windows, from what you're saying there?
They want Cavani. Right. They're very, very keen to have Cavani in January. Now, whether that can be feasible or not, I don't know. There are a couple of other footballers that they're watching really, really closely. They think maybe that they can draw down more borrowed money in the midterm. Although Xavi feverishly denied it, from my taste at least, in a business sense, Frankie de Jong is still extremely young in football terms. He's very, very talented. His development at Barcelona has stalled. It's early in his relationship with Xavi to see if Xavi can actually teach him and develop him the way that I believe Xavi will do with a host of players at Camp Nou. And yet there are clubs who come in and buy him and pay decent money for him. And that's a deal. That's not one of the areas where Barcelona are least well equipped in midfield. It's feasible that a good deal for de Jong could liberate money. I pray for Kun Aguero's sake that he finds a way to come back and be guaranteed that it's safe to play again. If he doesn't and he gives up on his career, or the contract is torn up with Barcelona, which I hope doesn't happen, then just a simple actuarial fact is that liberates a lot of salary, which takes the financial fair play in Spain litmus test down a little bit for Barcelona. There are small ways in which they can bid, steal or borrow a striker, and many strikers. Let's say in Cavani's position, would you rather sitting on the bench at Manchester United, or would you rather be playing, 3.5 games out of 6 for Football Club Barcelona? I think at his age, that's a pretty easy choice to make, I think. So that's one of the things to look out for in this winter market. But the winter market is full of sharks, full of muscular clubs, and Barcelona have proven to be neither of those so far. So we'll see.
So the plan isn't necessarily to trust youth out and out. There is a sense that they need a bit of a blend in the squad, that they need an Edinson Cavani type figure.
Ansu Fati is a phenomenon. He is a brilliant footballer, just as Pedri, Gavi, Nico will go on to prove to be not just little young teenage tyros. They're special players. We'll be talking about these guys in 8, 9, 10 years' time, still, because they're that good. Ansu Fati's meniscus problem, where he had 4 operations when 1 should have done. He was out for a year when he should really have been out for maximum 3 months. And when he's come back, the length of injury that he had has meant that he's been plagued by muscular problems. He's their one striker. Depay is a fraud. Depay is massively talented. He's very self-indulgent in what he chooses to do. He isn't a very good team player. He goes to sleep, he gets disheartened. Depay is not the way forward for Football Club Barcelona, after which they're really struggling to conjure up a goal. So it isn't simply adding experience, which a team half full of 17 and 18-year-olds does need. It's a very clear task that if they're to develop, get confidence, and you, all of you and your viewers know, when you're playing not bad, but the goals don't go in, the pressure on you is higher, the mistakes come, you lose a goal. If you tuck games away when you're playing moderately well, but you bang 2 goals, then the pressure changes, people play with more confidence, and the whole system regenerates. This isn't just a debate about Barcelona. This has happened right across your working lifetimes at a number of clubs. They cannot continue the way they are, creating lots of chances, but then not killing games off and suffering the problems behind.
The Ansu Fati injury that you mentioned there and the complications around his recovery, is there any connection between that and Xavi coming in and clearing out the medical department or replacing the head of the medical? Xavi clearly wasn't overly an obvious question.
Yeah, everybody at home is going. No, he didn't like the colour of their uniforms. Look, Owen, you're right, and there's a Dr. Pruna who was at the club throughout Xavi's just about his entire reign as maybe the best Spanish footballer ever, left the club in the build-up to the last presidential elections to ally himself with a candidate that wasn't Laporta. He was that important. I mean, you since the Galactico era, you've been used to presidents. You've been reporting on presidents. You're like, well, I've got this culture, I've got this guy, Dr. Pruna, was so important that he's going to be part of a presidential ticket. Now, that presidential candidate lost. Laporta hasn't been quick to forgive people who were on that ticket. But Xavi, and this is an indication of his power, not only cleared out physios, physical recuperators like fitness trainers, and 2 of them senior medical staff, one of whom was the guy that Ansu Fati ran to and embraced when he'd been out for a year, came back, scored a goal barely on the pitch. I think it was against Levante. And that guy who was the focus of everybody's cameras there, gone. And Pruna has been brought back. So when the president goes, yeah, Xavi, you can have your favourite doctor, it isn't simply a reflection of how badly things have been going. And Ansu is not, it is the tip of the iceberg because they're repetitive muscle injuries, part of which is to do with the way that we squeeze the juice out of our footballers. We absolutely squeeze them until they have nothing left. Playing every 3 days, travelling, no sleep, stupid times of games. Barcelona are playing a friendly, the Diego Maradona friendly, somewhere out in the desert in the middle of 2 crucial games in December. It's ludicrous what we do to our footballers. So it's not, in any club, it's not immediately the case you can point at the physio or the doctor or the fitness trainer and say, oh, that's your fault. Nobody's actually saying we're presenting the medical departments and fitness departments with players who have never been more battered mentally and physically in the history of the sport. So, but yes, you're right. There's been an absolute clear out, and Xavi wants there to be a general uprise in the number of games his crucial players play all season, and you would want that, wouldn't you?
Are you going to qualify, Graham?
Dynamo Kiev might do them a favour. I think it's feasible that Dynamo Kiev thwart Benfica. The odds makers will all say that it's Benfica going through and Barcelona going out. But if you're working out which group to be looking at tonight, this is a highly entertaining one. And if you can watch two pitches at the same time, there's drama in store. I will admit, Barcelona have never won in Bavaria, so they need Dynamo to do them a wee turn.